Whoa, whoa, no, 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 don't freak out. Hold on. Give me a second. Okay, I have to tell you something. I know this is gonna seem crazy. I am Spider America. I know it's hard to believe. I do the game development during the day, but at nights, I do other stuff as well. Game development isn't just about programming and doing graphics, it's about writing, it's about thinking up interesting new ideas. And I know it's tough to accept, but I've been Spider America for a pretty long time now. I thought of this interesting idea for a story, and at first I was just riffing with some friends, and I thought it'd be pretty fun, but I want to run it by you just because I think it's pretty fun. And that would be, what if there was a story where Aunt May became Venom? Let me grab a drink, hold on. Alright. Grab a seat, grab a snack, and I'll walk you through this pitch of mine. The story of Aunt May becoming Venom. Really, the story about Aunt May would be the B plot to this, and we're actually going to focus on the B plot, whereas the A plot, the main story, follows Spider-Man investigating and hunting down some crime lord or villain. Who it is exactly isn't the most important thing, because we're not actually going to follow that, but we're going to treat it as if that's the important part of the story. There will be a side plot of some other villain creating some inhibitor device to weaken and mute Spider-Man's power entirely. So, when this story starts out, we see the fallout of Spider-Man having recently defeated and humiliated whoever was currently partnered with the Venom symbiote, and he caused the two to separate. We see Aunt May volunteering her time in some kind of organization so she can assist people who need help somehow. The details of that can be ironed out. They're not necessarily the most important thing. We see that Aunt May was set to go on a vacation, but then she ends up canceling when this organization says, oh, they need more help and they're short-staffed, so Aunt May cancels her plans. We also see scenes that are paralleling her and Peter Parker with his struggle with Spider-Man as he's not able to balance his own life as he dedicates his time and prioritizes the Spider-Man stuff. So, in the same way, Aunt May never makes time for herself. She's always volunteering and trying to help. We see the effects of aging as May has less energy, less motivation, less drive for life. And in the quiet moments, we see that she's a little bit depressed, as can happen when you get older, but we see her pretend to be happier and to be better than she actually is for the sake of Peter whenever he's around and for other people whenever they're around. We see the Venom symbiote, and it's bitter and it's angry at Peter Parker, and it's looking for a way to get revenge. You know, Venom was humiliated, and it's trying to find a way to get back. And so Venom understands that Spider-Man has grown stronger than it over the years. You know, Peter Parker doesn't just, idle. He's getting stronger as well, and he's able to basically beat Venom now. We see Spider-Man about to catch and defeat whatever villain or crime lord that he's been chasing, when suddenly Venom appears and he ruins Spider-Man's plans. The villain that Spider-Man was chasing escapes, and right when Spider-Man is about to knock out Venom, he knows he can beat Venom, he's about to punch Venom, knock his lights out, Venom removes the face mask and reveals that Aunt May is now bonded with Venom. And Venom laughs, and Peter's absolutely stunned, and he freezes as Venom taunts him, and then Venom web swings away into the city nightscape. And at this point, Venom knows, yeah, this is it. This is how I humiliate Peter Parker. And over the course of this story, we see the development of Aunt May's relationship with Venom. So to start out, Venom uses his newfound free pass because he knows Peter Parker won't fight or hurt Aunt May. So Venom goes on a rampage, and we just see Venom harassing and terrorizing people. And then after a little while, Venom suddenly hears a voice in his head. And it's Aunt May's voice, and she asks Venom, why is he doing all this stuff? Why is he harassing and attacking people? And Venom replies, because he wants to get even with Spider-Man for humiliating him. And then May then says, if he really wants to get even with Spider-Man, why doesn't he just do Spider-Man's job, but do it better and do it faster than him? So saving people and catching the crime lord or villain. And then Venom thinks about it and then agrees, So Aunt May says that she wants to go home and have a cup of tea, but Venom doesn't care. Venom wants to go out into the city and he wants to beat up criminals. So now we see Venom, and he's beating up petty criminals all night long, and we see Venom, beating up people that are just jaywalking through the street, or they're not putting money in the parking meter. Okay, that goes on for a bit. And the next day, Aunt May wakes up feeling energetic, and this is the most energetic she's felt in a long time. She feels like going for a jog, but then she gets a phone call for whatever volunteer organization, whatever she's doing there. They call her in on her day off. This is supposed to be her day off, And she acquiesces and she says, okay, she'll come in. But then Venom suddenly speaks and he rudely tells him it's her day off and she isn't going in, so she's not going to do it. So Aunt May is shocked, hangs up the phone. Venom tells her to do what she wants. If she wants to go for a jog, then she should go for a jog. But she hasn't been for years because she just hasn't had the energy. So while out for a jog, they stop at a park bench to rest. And May remarks how she can't remember the last time she felt so energetic and felt so healthy. And from the distance, we see Spider-Man chasing and fighting some villain again. So Venom springs into action, and Venom looks, animalistic and brutal and unrefined and untamed. So Venom shows up and defeats the villain before Spider-Man can do it. But there's, this ferocity to it. And Venom, by circumstance, not on purpose, saves a group of kids that were about to get hurt. But they're terrified and they're crying. They're looking at Venom, and they're horrified. And we see a close-up of the kids crying and reflecting in Venom's eyes. So Venom leaves laughing at Peter that he was too slow and that Venom did a better job than Spider-Man. We see a montage of Venom violently fighting crime all day before we suddenly cut to Aunt May walking down the street. Venom says it's hungry. Aunt May says she could use a meal too, and they reach a 5-star restaurant in this skyscraper, with the great sweeping view of the city. And Aunt May says, she couldn't possibly spend that kind of money on herself, but Venom forces her to go to that restaurant and order a big expensive steak. And May says she hasn't had a steak in years, And they leave the restaurant and they walk down the street and a mugger attacks May. He pulls a gun on May, but Venom quickly manifests and grabs the mugger. Venom says he'll snap the guy's neck and kill him, but May stops him and instead talks to the mugger and asks him why he's doing it. And the mugger says, a crime lord has taken my family hostage. He's taken my wife and daughter, and I need the money so I can rescue my family. And May seems to take pity on the man before Venom alerts May that he's checking the man's heart rate and the vitals, and the man is lying. Venom can tell that he's tricked, that mugger has tricked Aunt May. So May gets a bit upset. She yells at the man. She gets a little brutal now, and she squeezes him tighter, and she tells him, tell the truth, and she squeezes his neck. And the man says that he has no more money, and he just needs his drug fix, and he's addicted. So Venom is about to kill the man, but then May stops Venom, and we see Venom drop off the man at a drug rehab center. And Venom asks why May did that. Why would she care? Why should she waste her time? She says, even if you've made mistakes, you deserve a chance to do better. So the next day we say Aunt May and whatever organization she's volunteering at. We're watching her throughout the workday just a bit, And Venom is complaining the entire day while May just ignores him. And Venom doesn't want to do that, But at the end of the day, we see Aunt May go into a dark alley where she says, you've been a very good symbiote today. And she lets Venom take control and go on a rampage, just beating up criminals because it's pretty fun. Venom thinks that he's humiliating Spider-Man by doing this. And suddenly, Venom gets caught in spiderwebs, and it was a trap set up by Spider-Man. And Spider-Man says they need to talk. And Venom reveals May's face and Venom says if Spider-Man doesn't let him go, he'll hurt Aunt May. So Spider-Man has no choice. He doesn't know what to do, and he lets Venom leave. So as they're leaving, May asks Venom if he was actually going to hurt her or not, and Venom doesn't respond. May then sees an out-of-control truck. It's speeding and it's swerving. It's out of control through the streets, and it's about to hit a family in the park, So May, she swings on over. She goes to stop the truck. It's no problem. It's easy. But Venom has a flashback of how terrified the kids were the other day, So Venom changes his form, or its form, to look more sleek and heroic and less scary, less animalistic. The family thanks Venom and asks who she is, and she replies, I'm Madam Venom. May then looks inside the truck, it's damaged, it's torn open, and she sees some weird technology inside, and it turns out it's these devices that are built to inhibit Spider-Man's powers entirely. And the guy driving the truck, May interrogates him, and he was hoping to attract Spider-Man's attention. He thought it was Spider-Man for a second, but he was trying to get Spider-Man's attention, but May got there first and stopped him. And if May hadn't been there, then Spider-Man would have been the one to get involved with that. So the next day, we see May volunteering at the organization again, but this time Venom isn't complaining. Instead, he's just simply making fun of people who look funny, who have weird mustaches or bad haircuts. We see May ignoring him for the rest of the day until she starts giggling at Venom's comments eventually towards the end of the day. So the workday's done. Venom says that he wants to go out and have some fun, but May says she wants to go home and have a cup of tea. And this time, Venom doesn't say anything. Instead, Venom suits up, and it looks like Venom's going to ignore her, but instead, Webb swings all the way home and has a cup of tea. So while enjoying tea, Venom sees some paperwork, and the stuff that was about May's canceled vacation. May wanted to go to the Bahamas, and then Venom asks why she canceled it, and May explains that people need her help, and she needs to keep volunteering her time at this organization. And Venom says, no, she should do things for herself. And May says, it's not always about you. Sometimes it's about someone else. Venom then replies, well, it has to be about you sometime. So we see the crime lord or the villain or whoever's being pursued by Spider-Man. We see a scene of them discussing with the other people that were creating these inhibitor devices. They're now discussing developing these devices for Spider-Man, and they discuss joining forces very briefly. We hear a knock on the door of Aunt May's place, and it's Peter Parker. He walks inside. May is shocked. Peter says, we need to talk. Peter says the symbiote needs to be removed because it's dangerous, and May says she's never felt better. She says she feels healthy and powerful, and Peter says power isn't always a good thing. He hands her a device, and he says he can use that to remove the bond between her and Venom, and May asks him, do you want me to be happy, Peter? And Peter freezes, unsure if it's May speaking or if it's Venom taunting him. And Peter says, Venom will control you. And May says, maybe it just wants someone to listen and understand it. Then there's an explosion in the city. You see it through Aunt May's window. So Peter rushes out and he swings toward the explosion. We follow Spider-Man as innocent bystanders are about to be crushed by falling building rubble. So he webs up, clip, clip, clip. He webs up the falling rubble and rushes to catch some of the rubble before it lands on the bystanders. So, he grabs it, And some villains appear, and it was basically bait, and they attach the device to Spider-Man, and it inhibits his abilities, and slowly Peter's power drains. The rubble that he's holding up sinks lower and lower, and his legs are buckling, and he can't handle the weight anymore, and the villains start beating Spider-Man with blunt weapons. They're hitting him over and over and over again, and we see him struggle, and just when he's about to be crushed, May swings in as Madam Venom. She swings in just at the last second, and then she easily clears the rubble. She gets the bystanders out of harm's way, and then Spider-Man asks May to get the inhibitor device off of him, but Venom replies, Venom will show Spider-Man how it's done. So then May fights the villains until some identifiable villains, like a fan favorite, a villain that we know that has strong powers, that villain appears, they fight, the villain gets the upper hand on May, because May's still pretty inexperienced when it comes to fighting, right? When the villain is about to injure May, Spider-Man jumps in the way and takes the hit and protects May. So Venom can feel now the emotion between Peter and May, and he feels that sense of love, that bond that they have together. And then Venom lets May have full control over her body, and May removes the inhibitor device from Spider-Man. And then together, Spider-Man and May, as Madam Venom, they fight and defeat the villain. And at this point, May's Venom suit becomes the most sleek, the most streamlined, and the most heroic looking, and it loses almost all of its animalistic, brutal visual features. So this is a visual sign that Venom is changing and adapting to May. So Spider-Man finishes webbing up the villains, whip, whip, whip. Then he turns to thank May, but she's already left the scene. She's swung out of there. So we see May sitting high atop a building, looking at the city. Venom asks May if she wants Venom to leave her, and Venom starts understanding that he can't really get revenge on Spider-Man this way. He thought he was getting revenge, but he just understands this love and the bond between them, and he's starting to be influenced by May's love for Peter. And May says it's been nice having someone to talk to, and Peter's not around often, so Peter's so busy being Spider-Man that May doesn't even get to see him, and Peter barely visits anymore. So May says it's been nice. It feels like she kind of has a nephew living at home again. And then Venom says, so Venom is a better nephew than Peter. And then May doesn't respond. Venom's kind of feeling a little confident at this point. And May doesn't necessarily say that she wants Venom to leave. So the scene changes to Peter. And this is, a couple days, maybe a week or so later. Peter arrives home to his place, and on his, nice wood dining room table, there's a message scratched in it. It has GPS coordinates, has the numbers, the longitude and latitude, and then there's text that reads, I have May. And Peter gets angry, and he immediately sets out on a flight to follow the coordinates somewhere in the, wherever it's going. So Peter leaves the airport, and he arrives at a sunny beach in the Bahamas, and he sees May and she's sitting in a lawn chair right at the beach. It's a nice, beautiful, sunny day, and the waves are lapping peacefully. And May is sitting there in a lawn chair, and she's wearing Venom as a swimsuit. And she says, "Oh, good, we were waiting for you." Peter looks at her, and he says, "Venom, what do you want from me?" And then Venom says, "It's not always about you. Sometimes it's about someone else." And the camera pans back as we see Peter and May. They sit in lawn chairs, and May hands Peter a drink, like a pina colada, and they watch the sunset over the ocean. And that is the story of Aunt May becoming Venom. You know, and you could take that more places, because I feel like there's still tension between May and Peter, even through all of that. I think the fun appeal of that is Venom is influencing May to at least do something for yourself. You know, if you're always giving yourself to other people, that doesn't leave any room for you to do something for yourself. So there's a balancing act between doing something for yourself, doing something for other people, but you know what? You gotta have time for yourself too. And Venom balances it out with at least feeling some kind of love for someone else through May. And it's two very different characters and personalities that get to balance each other out, and they sort of help each other be a little bit better, because they are constantly balancing each other out, because they're so opposites. But also there's still going to be that sense of Venom trying to one-up Peter Parker now, thinking, oh, well, if he's not going to be a nephew, if he won't be around, then I'll be the good nephew. And I think something like that is very, very fun. I think it's a very interesting story. So let me know what you thought of that. And if you enjoyed Aunt May becoming Madam Venom. All right. Take care, everyone. Take care of yourselves, everyone. I'll see you around. I'll try and think of some more fun episodes for the channel. Thwip thwip. See you around.